Kal Kadosh, Boker Or, Masechet Bava Metzia Daf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph 43a1. We are by the Mishnah. First line on the page. Amafkid Ma'otet Shulchani. If you're going to give money and you're going to leave it by a Shulchani, a money changer. In Srurin, if it's going to be tied up, he's not allowed to use them. Lefichach, and therefore, if it got lost, he's not going to be Chayav Achriutan. But Mutarin, if it's going to be open, so he's allowed to use them. Lefichach, and therefore, if it got lost, he's going to be Chayav Achriutan. Etzel balabait, if it's by a balabait, whether it's going to be by tzurino or mutarin, he's never allowed to use them. And therefore, if it gets lost, you're not going to be chayav achriyutan. Okay? Fine. Chenvani ke balabait. If the din of a chenvani is like a balabait, these are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, chenvani is like a shulchani, which means we had three different stages. We had a balabait, we had a money changer, and then we had a storekeeper, the chenvani. So there's a machloket to do with the storekeeper. Is the storekeeper like the balabait or is the storekeeper like the money changer? But for sure, the money changer was one extreme and the balabait was the other extreme. Okay? Until here, everyone clear? That was the Mishnah. Says the Gemara, Mishum de tzrurin lo yishtamesh ben. What? Just because they're tied up together in a bundle, so you're not supposed to use it? Yeah? So he says, Amar Ravasi, Amar Rav Yehuda. Says Ravasi in the name of Yehuda. Yeah. Bitzrorin v'chatumin shanu. We're talking about that it's going to be money, which is going to be tzrurin v'chatumin. Okay? And Rav Mari Amar, and Rav Mari says, Bekesher meshuneh. We're talking about a kesher which is going to be meshuneh. What does it mean meshuneh? It's a kesher which is different. Okay, fine. Ika damri. There are those that say, by Rav Mari comes and he says, Kesher meshuneh mai. What's halacha by kesher meshuneh? Teiku. It's a teiku. Okay, which means that what happens if you left like another type of a kesher on it, like a type of, because we were talking about Masechet Surin, but what happens if it's like a different type of a knot or whatever it is? That basically he knows that you don't want to. He was megaleh dato. He doesn't want it. Not to open it. So therefore, take it. We don't have an answer. Okay? Mutarim v'yishtamesh b'hen. Amar Ravuna says, v'afilu ne'ensu. Even if it's going to be honest, so says the Gemara, v'havdu ktani. I thought we didn't learn about honest. We were talking about that it got lost. So answers the Gemara like Rabba. What does it mean like Rabba? He says, the Amar Rabba, but Rabba says, nignevu. If it was stolen, lisim zuyan, like with an armed robbery, or avdu, what is avdu? Tavus finato bayan, that it got lost in the sea. Meaning the ship, right, sank. For Rav Nachman says, ne'ensu lo, that if it right now got ne'enas, it's not going to be that way. So Amalei Rava le Rav Nachman, says Rava to Rav Nachman, ledidach damarta, according to you that you said, ne'ensu lo, alma, so it comes out, lo ayu shoel alay, lo ayu shoel alayu. Right? They wouldn't have asked about it bichlal. Ish shoel lo havi shomer sechar. So he says if it's not going to be shoel, it's not going to be shomer sechar either. So Amalei says, behamodi, I'm going to admit to you, tehol v'ne'ena mehaneh. The fact that the shulchani is going to be benefiting from the money, if he would have actually come something that he had of money, he would have actually put it on it. So then he's like a shomer sechar, which means he would have had it. That he would have said that, okay, if I'm going to sell it, I could use this money as well. Meaning that, it's like a backup. Yeah, the fact that he has the money as a backup, that's already makes him into a shomer sechar instead of a shomer chinam. Okay. So eight Rav Nachman Rav Huna, says Rav Nachman to Rav Huna, hamafkid ma'ot etzel shulchani. If somebody is going to be mafkid money by a shulchani, in tzrurin lo yishtamesh bahen. He says if it's going to be tzrurin, so you shouldn't use it. Lefichach, and therefore, imotzi lo ma'al gizbar. So if he takes it out, so there's no meila, meaning you didn't benefit from kochim. V'im mutarin, if it's going to be permitted, he's allowed to use it, and therefore imotzi. So ma'al bagizbar. So therefore there is meila in the gizbar. Okay? So via Marta, now if you're going to tell me afilu nensu, right, my idea, what are you dealing with here? Hotzi afilu lo hotzi nami. Even if you didn't use it, it's also going to be the same halacha. So Amalei, he says, who the same halacha, even though he didn't actually use the money. Since the Reisha said hotzi, so also the Seif also said the word hotzi, even though he didn't actually use the money. Okay? Fine. Mishnah says on the bottom of Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, Hasholeach yad bepikadon. If you put your hand in a pikadon and then afterwards it became lost, meaning that you touched the deposit, which obviously you weren't supposed to, and then it became lost. So Bet Shammai says Yilke bechaser u'vyeter, which means that the shomer has to take the hefsed, whether it's going to be more or less, right? That means if it went down in price or went up, all those things, he has to pay the difference. Okay, Bet Hillel says no, you have to pay kishat otzah at the time that it went out. The Gemara is going to explain the words. And Rabbi Kiva says kishat viyah at the time that he's demanding it back. So let's see the Gemara. Amar Rabba, Rabba says, Hayman de gazal chavita de chamra mechavre. Somebody that comes and he steals a chavit of wine from his friend. Mi'ikara shavya zuze. At the beginning, it was only worth a zuz. So one more time, he stole a barrel, it was worth a zuz. Now it's worth 4 zuz. A good investment. It's worth now 4. Tavra, and it broke, right? Or shat yari, he drank it. Mishalem arba, he has to pay now 4. Itvar mimela, if it broke on its own, he only pays 1. So one more time, he stole it when it's worth 1. It went up to 4. If he himself drank it, or he himself broke it, he has to pay the 4. But if it broke on its own, without anything, so then he has to pay 1. My tama, what's the reasoning? Kevin the ita, because if it was here, hadra lamare beina, you give it back to the master. Meaning, so therefore you would give it back to the master, and it was only worth 1. So therefore that's why you only have to pay the 1. So he shot the kashatile when you were drinking it, or when he broke it, you were stealing it from him. And therefore now, kol gazlanim, they have to pay during the time of the gezilah. Meaning, when's he considered a real gazlan? Even though he already took it and he stole it, but only when he drank it or when he broke it, that's when he's considered the gazlan. And therefore at that time it was already worth 4. Okay, eat from a but if it broke on its own, you only have to pay 1. Right? My time, what's reasoning? He didn't do anything. So why are you going to come and start forcing him to pay on the shata gezilah? So okay, on the shata gezilah, it was only worth 1. So he pays 1. Okay, that is the first shita. Okay? Tonight we learned in the Mishnah, Bet Hillel says, Keshat Hotza'a Mai. What does it mean? Because if you realize that was the Bet Shammai, they came and they said Yilke bechaser v'yeter v'chul v'chul. Bet Hillel says Keshat Hotza'a. What is Keshat Hotza'a now? So he says, Mai Keshat Hotza'a. If you're going to tell me now Keshat Hotza'a means, right, Mina Olam, right, which is basically the shovi at the time that it gets destroyed. So uvemai, so that, and what are we talking then? Ibechaser, if it's going to be lacking now, mi'ikalaman da amar, right? Is there anybody that holds such a thing? That you're going to pay less? Imagine, a gazlan comes, he steals something, he's going to pay less than what he actually stole? But now we learned, kol gazlan mishlamim kishat gezilah. V'ibi yeter, and if it's going to be more, so then that's like Bet Shammai then. Meaning, what is Bet Hillel then? Bet Hillel, it cannot be less, because it doesn't make sense. Now, I could be more, so then that's like Bet Shammai. So Bet Hillel and Bet Shammai are the same thing then. So what was the machlok between them then, obviously? Yeah? Let's see. Mem Gimel Amud Bet 43b. Ela pshita, but rather keshat hotza'a mi bet ba'alim. It doesn't mean shat hotza'a from the world, that it got destroyed in the world. Hotza'a means that you took it outside of the house of the master. So therefore, since you took it outside of the house of the master, that's what it means shat hotza'a. So it means you're paying the value when it left the master. Okay? So says the Gemara, so leimar Rabba damar ke Bet Shammai. So why doesn't Rabba, we're going to say that Rabba holds like Bet Shammai. So Amalecha Rabba is going to tell you, no. Beyeter, when it's going to be a higher value, kule alma lo plige, nobody argues that he has to pay during the time of the ibud. One is a machloke when it goes down in value. Bet Shammai savri shlichut ene tzricha chesron, doesn't have to go down, which means that even though it's not chaser anything, you're already considered a gazlan, and therefore it's like mamash, it's yours. And when it goes down, it's in your property that it went down. Bet Hillel savre shlichut yad tzricha chisron, you need to do something in it, and therefore when it became chaser, it was still in the reshut of the master. Meaning, one more time, we're not talking about that it went up in value, we're talking about it went down value. So according to Bet Shammai, the second that you stole it, it's in your possession. Once it's in your possession, if it goes down in value, it's your loss, the gazlan's loss. According to Bet Hillel, you need to do something to it. Meaning, since it was no shlichut yad, it was not chaser anything, you didn't do anything yet. So it's still in the reshut of the master, but you could give it back like this to the master. So therefore, if it goes down in value, it went down in value to the master. But that which Rava comes and he says, shlichut yad does not need tzricha v'chisaron. So why don't we say that Rava holds like Bet Shammai? So says the Gemara, right? And can that be what? He's going against Bet Hillel. Bet Hillel is halacha always. So he says, Ela, but rather, what are we dealing with? Kegon shetiltela lavi alea gozalot. You're metaltel ota. right? You were metaltelota in order to bring the gozalot. Gozalot is like, again, the sulam, to go up and down. Okay? Veshuel shalomidat kamiflege, and it's a machloket to do with shoel shalomidat. Bet Shammai savri, Bet Shammai hold, shoel shalomidat gazlanava. That means if you borrow something without letting the guy know, you're considered a gazlan. And therefore, v'chi chased, so it went down in value. It's in your reshut that it went down in value. Bet Hillel holds, no, shoel shalomidat, you're a borrower. And therefore, if it went down in value, it still belongs to the original owner. So that's a machloket between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel by shoel shalomidat. Shoel shalomidat means you borrowed something without permission. Are you considered a gazlan or are you considered a shoel? That's the machloket Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel. Elahada, remember that which the Rava comes and he says, shoel shalomidat according to the Rabbanan is considered a gazlan. So Leimar, are you going to tell me now that Rava holds like Bet Shammai? What's going on? Because we just said that you're a gazlan. So that means what? He goes like Bet Shammai? So Elahacha, but rather over here we're dealing with shevach shel gizela kamipalge, the appreciation of a gizela. What does that mean? Bet Shammai holds that shevach gizela belongs to the nigzal. Meaning you stole something and now went up in value, the nigzal, the one that got stolen from, he gets that appreciating value, not the gazlan. Okay? Bet Hillel savre, Bet Hillel holds shevach the gizela, the gazlan, it belongs to the gazlan. Uflukta dani tanayin, this is the machlok of these tanayin, the tanayin we learned in Braita. Hagozelet arachel, if you're going to steal a sheep, gizazav yalda, and then you sheared the wool or gave birth, meshalem ota, you have to pay for it and the gizotea and vladotea and the shearings and the children. These are the orders that we need. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, gizera chozer beina, you just give back the property. Give back the sheep, that's it. You don't have to give anything else. So it comes out the same machloka between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, who gets appreciating value of something which was stolen, is the same machloka between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda. We also wanted to bring a proof. Bet Shammai holds, Bet Hillel says keshat hotza'ah, meaning that the Bet Shammai did not say, right, yilkeh bezol u'v'yoker. Right, but there it's mashma that he's going to lose out. Okay, but rather chaser yeter, which is mashma that if it's going to become worse. Okay, so he says Shemami. Now we're actually going to learn from here that the shevach of the gufa pikadon, right, is actually going to be the machloke between Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel, and again this is going to be the same machloke between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. Okay, so that was the second shita the Mishnah, keshat hotza'ah. What was the third one? The third one was Rabbi Akiva says, B'kishat tviyah. Tviyah is when you're demanding the money. Not when you're taking it out of the house of the owner. Not when you're B'shat gizela, but rather, right, meaning B'shat that it's not going to be in the world anymore, but rather Kishat tviyah. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel says Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, Dalachaz like Rabbi Akiva. Which means, Kishat tviyah. U'modeh Rabbi Akiva b'nkom sheyesh edim, and Rabbi Akiva admits that if there's going to be a deem, then what's going to happen? They know how much it was the value, you pay like Bet Hillel. My Tama, what's the reasoning? Tamar Krab, as the pasuk says, La'asher hu lo yitenenu biyom hashmato. When the pasuk says about a gazlan that he's going to be machish and he's going to swear falsely that he didn't steal it, that La'asher hu lo, it's the nigzal, you have to give it to him with the extra fifth. Biyom hashmato, on the day that he became guilty. Now, once there's a deem, he's going to be chayav from that moment. Because once there's a deem, that's it. There's nothing more to talk about. He's chayav. So Amal Rav Oshaya Rav Yehuda says Rav Oshaya to Rav Yehuda, Rabbi, Ata Omer Ken. Do you actually say this? So he says, Hachi Amar Ravasi Ibn Yochanan. This is what Ravasi said in Rabbi Yochanan. Chaluk Rabbi Kiva. Even Rabbi Kiva argues, even if there is a redeem, Rabbi Kiva argues. Yeah, my Tama, what's reasoning? Because the pasuk says, Lasher lo yitenem biyom hashmato. Yeah, bedina dekha mechayev l'shma. So the bedin is the one that's mechayev, not the edim. Meaning, who's the one that's going to be mechayev to the hashma? The bedin, not the edim. The edim are like the chetimtza. They're like the how to get to it. But the bedin is the one that's mechayev the money. So therefore, it's not the same thing. So Amalei Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Abba bar Papa, ki azalta la'ata, when you go over there, akif, right, go around, asuma de tzur, by Ma'ale of Har Tzur, ve'u legaben, go up to Rabbi Yaakov Baridi, u'ba mineh, and ask him if he heard from Rabbi Yochanan, if the halakha is like Rabbi Kiva or not like Rabbi Kiva. Amalei, he says, this is what Rabbi Yochanan says, halakha is like Rabbi Kiva le'olam. What does it mean le'olam? Amar Ravashi says, Shelo tomar, don't say, Hanem mile, one of these words, Eicha deleka edim, only if there's not going to be a edim. Aval heicha deleka edim, but if there's going to be a edim, then it's not going to be like that. It's not true. The halakha is always like, right, Rabbi Akiva, even if there is a edim. So even if there is a edim, halakha like Rabbi Akiva. Vinami, or if you want, you could answer also. Tehadra ledukta vitavra, that if you're going to give it back and then it broke, La Pulka Bishmael comes against Rabbi Shmuel, but Rabbi Shmuel says, Lo ba'inan, right? Lo ba'inan dat balim. Kamashmalan comes teach you, Te ba'inan dat balim. You do need dat balim. Meaning, if you took something and now you have to give it back, you have to make sure that the balim know that it's theirs. It's there. And Rava comes and he says, Halacha like Bet Hillel. So obviously we're going to see that there's a huge machloket here. You know, who's Halacha like? Rabbi Kiva or Bet Hillel? For sure it's not like Bet Shammai, but the question is it going to be like Rabbi Kiva or Bet Hillel? Okay?